What's up, everybody? Alex from Swamp Rat Fishing. And no, the title is not clickbait. These are literally my top 5 swim jigs that you need to be fishing now. I'm recording this at the end of August, but I personally think the swim jig is a 3 seasons bait. It struggles in the wintertime, but other than that, every time of the year, I've got these tied on. So hang with me here. Not only am I gonna have my top 5 swim jigs, I'm also gonna pair each swim jig up with a trailer. So let's not even get fancy with it. Let's just get right into it. A little history. I started throwing the swim jig exclusively as my only search bait, really. I've thrown some other things, but I have the most confidence in this bait. And I started doing that in about March of 2020. So I'm at about a year and a half of throwing this. I've learned so much about this bait. It excels. It's definitely a sleeper. Not a lot of people really give it the credit that it needs. When I'm looking for a swim jig, I'm really looking for 3 things. I'm looking for hook size or gauge of it. I'm looking for skirt material and kind of like the general fullness of it. And then I'm also looking for the head shape. Different head shapes will do different things. Some are very slim, as we're gonna see, and that's gonna help you get through that grass a little bit easier. Some of them are flattened out on the bottom. That's gonna help you skip under docks. I don't think that there's really one swim jig that's gonna be good at every single application. So I definitely recommend picking up a couple of these, or all 5 of them, and throw them around. Colors are gonna vary, but I'm gonna give you 5 different colors that I think kill at all times of the year. Really just depends on the forage. Big thing with the swim jig is I see it as a power or a finesse version of a power bait. So you definitely want to make sure that you're trying to match the hatch as much as possible. It doesn't have anything fancy on it. Doesn't have the lip like a chatterbait does. Doesn't have any rattles in it. So you really want to pair it up with a bait that's going to help get that secondary action on the swim jig. So let's get into it. First off, we've got, this is the Strike King swim jig, and this is in 1/4. As you guys can see in the footage, it's got a very slender head and not a lot of skirt. That's a big reason on why this is number 5 for me and not higher. I do like that head. It does come through grass pretty well. It'll kind of like slither through the grass. It will kind of struggle a little bit in the heavier stuff. You got to go with kind of a bigger head, to more meat to push the forage out of the way. But its skirt is kind of lacking. It's a very, very sparse skirt. Sometimes that's good. That's why I have it paired up with this missile bait twin turbo in white. This is when I'm gonna want to fish this. A twin turbo on the back of it is gonna slow the jig's descent quite a bit. So I like to fish this over the top of grass, even open water, fish it, I mean, pretty high in the column. But you're not adding a lot. You're using a lot of the trailer to draw in the fish, and it's not a giant profile either. It's very small, bite-sized, compact. You can get these jigs at a lot of places. I know people are getting them at Walmart. You can get them all over the place. So the other issue with it, though, is that it does have a light wire hook. Again, there's a certain time for that. If your fish aren't giant, it's okay to use a light wire hook. If you're not fishing in deep, nasty stuff, it's okay to use a light wire hook. I would not throw this in any kind of heavy cover, any kind of heavy grass. It's gonna get hung up, and when you do set into a fish, it's gonna be tough to yank them out of there. But still a really good swim jig and a great trailer for it. That's a Strike King swim jig with the Missile Baits twin turbo on the back. All right, on to number 4. Now number 4 is kind of cheating, but this is the Bill Lowen Super Stroke swim jig head. Now the skirt I made myself. You can get packs all over the internet, and you can kind of make your own skirts. I do like this head. It gives you a lot more body to skip with on the bottom of the jig head. It's a little stubby, but not too bad. I actually enjoy throwing this jig head. It is a lighter hook, again, like the other one, but you can customize the skirts on them. You can do that with any of the jigs, but you can get these for like $4 for 5 heads. Get yourself some skirt material, and you're good to go. And I've got just a normal Kitech on that. This is a like rainbow trout color. I do have a video way back on how to make this exact skirt color. I found out that this works really well on lakes and ponds that stock rainbow trout. Fish this around that same time that they're gonna do that spring or even winter stocking. This thing kills. The only issue with the Kitech is it rips up a ton. And I mean a ton. You're gonna get like maybe one fish off every Kitech. Also, it gives a big looping action and it will give it some hunt, but you don't get a lot of the secondary body roll like you will with the next 3 swim jigs. And I really think that secondary body roll adds a lot more movement in the water and a more natural look to help draw in those fish. But yeah, Bill Lowen Super Stroke. I think you can get them with skirts on too. I think they sell them. I'm pretty sure I saw them on Tackle Warehouse. But yeah, the Bill Lowen Super Stroke swim jig with a Kitech. All right, coming in at number 3. Now this is not a company that I normally show on this channel. I haven't been the biggest fan of a lot of their baits, to be honest. But there's no denying that this Grass Hero from Googan Baits, it's a really good swim jig. Again, it's got a different head design than the other ones. This one is slender. You're not gonna be able to skip this one as well, but I've had this one come through thicker stuff better than the Strike King and better than the homemade, the Bill Lowen head. The skirt is really impressive. A lot of these companies, like we saw on the Strike King one, they'll kind of skimp when it comes to skirt. And that's all personal preference. Maybe you don't want that big profile, but they give you a lot of skirt to work with. And if it's too much, you can trim it yourself. So I really like it when a company will give you almost more skirt than you need so you can trim to your specifications. It's starting to step up in hook gauge. It's definitely bigger than the previous 2, but not as big as the next 2. Great colors, the skirt works well. I've never had an issue with it rolling over. It's got a lighter weed guard, almost like the other 2. It's a very light weed guard, so you might have some issues throwing it into pads and really thick stuff. But this is definitely made for light grass, over the top. I really like this swim jig. And I'm pairing that with the X-Zone Swammer in a yellow perch color. I mean, look at that, just a straight up bass snack. Googan's actually did this bait correct. All right, number 2 on the list is a 6 Sense Fishing Divine Swim Jig. This is the jig that I initially started with, and I fished this thing a ton. I have boxes and boxes of the swim jig. It is an excellent swim jig. It's got a very flat bottom to it. It skips extremely well. Probably the best skipping jig out of all the ones that we're gonna go over. It's got the 6 Sense color patterns that are always on point. They give you a lot of skirt. It's a really good swim jig. It does have a lighter weed guard, just a little bit heavier than that Grass Hero, but it's a very light weed guard. The big con for me, and for most people it's probably a pro, but it's got a screw lock system to hold your trailer on. I'm not a fan of that. I end up messing up my bait and getting it out of whack more. I don't mind sliding it up if it slides out. I think the screw lock, for me, is not the way to go. But it's a great swim jig, great color. It's gonna be really easy to match the hatch in your area because there's so much customization and colors that you can get. And I've got that paired with an X-Zone Adrenaline Bug in just a standard green watermelon red. Again, another really good kind of panfish imitation. It's a good swim jig. It's a great swim jig to start out with because you can throw it in heavier. It's very forgiving when it comes to that. And with that lighter weed guard, it does make the hook set easier. You don't have to swing into them as hard. So I think if I was gonna start out, this is what I did. And I think it's a good recommendation to start out with that Divine swim jig. And number 1 on the list, I'm sure you guys already know if you follow my channel, but there it is, the Beast Coast Gorilla Swim Jig. This is my favorite swim jig. I've talked about it a lot. It's got a thick guard. It's got a thick hook. The head design, not only will it get you through grass and you can skip it, but because how it's kind of fat, it'll push through pad stocks extremely easy. And I throw this thing into just straight garbage and it comes out just fine. And because it has that heavy hook, when I do catch a fish in that garbage, I can lay into them, and you do have to sweep set harder than you would all these other swim jigs. But when you got them pinned, I'm not worried about bending out this hook. I can just full bore him out of there, use all the power that the reel has to get him out. I usually only fish these on braid. Again, that's to get them out of this trash. If you've just got gunk everywhere, pads, they're not biting the frog, throw this. Let it get down in there and then reel and rip that thing through it. Absolute money. The colors are on point. They don't have as many color variations as like 6 Sense does, but they've got you covered in a couple different profiles for each color. So they've got a couple different whites, a couple different greens, some browns, and black and blue, which is amazing for swim jigs. I love black and blue. This is the one I go with. This is the Cajun Crush. It's got that pink in there. It's got that crystal flash. You guys have heard me talk about it. And lately, my favorite trailer, I either use an all black, especially with this jig, Swammer from X Zone, like we saw on the Googan bait Grass Hero. Lately, I've been playing with this and it's been awesome. This is the 13 Fishing Churro swim bait. It's definitely bigger. You're gonna have a big profile, right? But you could nip down at the head and shorten up your profile. The big thing is to make sure that that tail can free flow. Why this thing is out there, you've got the boot, but because it has that little notch, I've watched this thing, it'll rock and it'll roll. It'll like hunt, it'll move. It gives so much secondary action. And again, to rewind it back to the beginning, I think it's super important. Tactical bassing, a lot of their swim jig videos, they talk about secondary action. And at first, I was like, now just run this thing through. But no, if you get the right trailer to give that bait some secondary action, you're gonna get a ton more strikes. This thing looks so lifelike at that point. It's gonna be rocking, rolling. You're gonna get a lot of action from a very finesse profile. It's amazing. So there it is, Beast Coast with the 13 Fishing. Look at that boot tail. 13 Fishing Churro. So yeah, grab your favorite medium heavy or heavy rod. Now is the time. This bait works in spring, summer, and fall. It excels in spring and fall. Get you a swim jig, get out there, start catching some big ones. You guys have a good one.